how about this? How about what we've gotten a chance to watch here since the trade deadline? They win 9 out of 10 games, 7 straight. How much of that is the effect of just being buyers and sort of the confidence and the messaging that comes all the way down to the team from doing that?
I mean, I'm not going to say it's directly attributable, but it sure doesn't hurt. And that's always been the thing, I think, with trade deadline additions. You can look at other teams. The Yankees went out and remade their bullpen. Their bullpen's been tire fire since. The Mets were aggressive at the deadline, and they've been maybe even worse than the Yankees. Like, there are teams that went out there and did what the Mariners did or did something similar to it and just haven't had that effect. But I look at the Mariners and I just feel like what they did was they complemented something that was good already. They saw an opportunity, not just in a wide open American League West, not just in a wide open American League, but in a wide open Major League Baseball, where the best team right now is the Milwaukee Brewers, who are playing incredible ball. The only team that's been hotter, frankly, than the Mariners, but historically has not had very much success in the postseason. So all of this is to say, I think the Mariners saw a chance for something really special to happen. And I know it's been only 10 games, and I'm not going to sit here and judge a team based on how it's playing in a small window in early to mid-August. But I'll say this, guys, it looks pretty good. It looks like the kind of a team that can win its division and can win the pennant and can win the World Series. And if I'm a baseball team right now, I do not want to see the Seattle Mariners on the other side of the field.
Well, and the crazy thing is you really don't want to see their lineup. It's not even just the pitching.
I know.
You say the 10 games, and I was curious because we just saw that when it first came out. You're just like, oh, my God, look at this lineup. It just looks so much better and so much different. I ran some numbers, and I don't know how you would feel about doing it. How do you compare eras? There's so many different ways to do it, and I'm not a statistician, as I'm sure you could guess. But just looking at the OPS plus, which is obviously, which is going to factor in.
That's probably the first thing that that and like weighted on base. That's what I would look at.
All right, so I looked at OPS plus because it's going to compare eras, and this Mariner lineup compared to all the other Mariner lineups over the years in terms of like the 9 guys who played the most during a year. I only had so much time to do this at Baseball Reference. This is second. They are 0.5 behind the 97 Mariners for being the best offensive lineup they've ever run out there.
I would have to look back at some of those 90s lineups. And, when you have Junior and Edgar and Jay Buhner and the rest of the crew in the same lineup, that's kind of tough to beat. I mean, those are 2 Hall of Famers right there. I'm not sure we're going to have any Hall of Famers from this particular lineup. But what I love
but this lineup is deeper, Jeff, and that's really the difference.
I was going to say, I love the depth of this lineup, and I love the balance of this lineup. I love that there are a bunch of guys who hit left-handed, a bunch of guys who hit right-handed, and some switch hitters. I love that there's power and that there's speed and that there's on-base skill. I love that there are guys who make contact. Just top to bottom, you're right. It's a terrifying lineup to have to pitch around. And I'll just give a couple of examples. A guy like Cole Young, the power hasn't shown up immensely, but God, he takes really great at bats. He walks a lot. He is willing to not just hunt for his pitch, but to not chase outside the zone. And for a player who's in his first season like Cole Young, it's the kind of thing you see and think to yourself, man, that is like once he really starts getting it, once he gets some experience in the big leagues, this has a chance to be a really good skill set. And Josh Naylor is the other one. And I know Josh Naylor's been the best hitter for the Mariners since the break in more or less every regard. But it keeps going back, guys, to the fact that for someone who has as much pop as he does, as much slug as he can provide, to just not strike out, it's a game changer when you have that in the middle of your lineup.
I feel like AJ Hawk on the Pat McAfee show.
I know. I'm
I get
sorry,
to talk?
buddy.
8 minutes in, do I get to talk?
Sorry about that.
You want to continue?
Hi, Brock.
Hi, Jeffrey. 43 games
Good
to
to
go.
know you're alive. Sorry about the smell.
How AJ just sits and stares at the camera, it's just incredible to me. I can't do it.
What a gig.
43 games to go. Okay, 43 games to go. We're playing little fantasy baseball with Jeff Passan. And I say to Jeff Passan, with 43 games to go, you get to pick which lineup in baseball you want for this 43 game stretch. Where would the Mariners fit in your ranking with this offensive lineup?
Boy, oh boy. See, I'm trying to think of teams that I would absolutely have ahead of them. And
would you take Phillies or New Yorks?
I think I would take the Cubs over them.
Okay.
I think the Cubs with Pete Crow Armstrong and Kyle Tucker and say Suzuki, Michael Busch, Dansby Swanson, Matt Shaw swinging the bat well. They get production from Carson Kelly behind the plate. I mean, it's close. I could see the argument for the Mariners over the Cubs, but I think I would probably take the Cubs. I would probably take the Dodgers just because of the star power. I know they have not hit for a while now, and Mookie Betts is not having the year that we expect out of him. But Ohtani, Betts, Freeman, Will Smith, and a lot of depth. I think I would probably take the Dodgers. Aside from that, it's hard to argue with Milwaukee right now, but I like the Mariners lineup better than them. I think they've got the depth that the Yankees don't. The Blue Jays probably belong up in that discussion as well. But they're top five. I think I can say that pretty comfortably. Like, the Mariners are a top five offense in baseball right now.
Pretty amazing to think about, considering some of the conversations we've had over the last couple of years. The other thing,
oh my God, right? I mean, it's and it's just I always thought that when the Mariners got good, like good, that this was going to be based around its pitching, and the pitching is still there. We've seen strikeout George Kirby, and we've seen Walter Logan Gilbert, and Brian Wu's just been a god all year long. Luis Castillo, keep the ball in the park, but aside from that, he's been his steady self, and Bryce Miller's going to be back soon. I don't know what role it's going to be. I don't know if it's going to start off, and I imagine he's going to start off back in the rotation and build up a little bit. But the idea that they could eventually deploy him in the bullpen alongside Munoz and Brash and Spire and Ferguson, you need – if you go into a postseason, you want at least five relievers that you can rely on. Like that's the way postseason baseball has gone, where more and more relief pitching has become imperative there. And half the innings in the postseason are now going to relief pitchers. So it's going to be interesting to see how Dan Wilson and I'm not guaranteeing the Mariners a playoff spot at this point, but if they make it, how does Dan Wilson deploy those arms? Because he doesn't have to worry about guys going out there and just throwing up zeros like he did in that Houston series a few years ago, where the Mariners gave the world champion Astros the best run of any team that postseason. And the only thing that was impeding them, frankly, was their inability to score runs.
Well, yeah, and by the way, you get to the playoffs, you might add Emerson Hancock to that list. You might add Logan Evans to that list. I mean, if you're just taking the best pitchers on the roster, you could make that bullpen better and better and better. You mentioned Naylor, and he has been quite the revelation. The personality is awesome. I love that we have
Fun to watch, isn't it?
Oh my God, it's great. And we've got a texter, I don't know if you heard this, who has nicknamed him the Big Grumper, to go with Cal. So you got the Big Dumper and the Big Grumper, and it's like the most perfect description ever. I love the intensity. I love everything about it. I love the base stealing, which is funny.
Crazy, right?
It's hilarious.
I think he swiped more bags this week than anyone in baseball.
I mean, and I mean, we could probably do a whole segment just on that. But what I know he's going to want to go to free agency. I wouldn't blame him. He's got to come this far. Why wouldn't he? But what does a deal for Josh Naylor look like at his age? And he doesn't hit a ton of home runs. So, like, what does Josh Naylor get in the open market?
That is one of those where I'll be honest, I have not done enough research on what first basemen like his age historically get to tell you with any degree of certainty. Do I think Josh Naylor is a nine-figure player? I do. But I've always been a big Josh Naylor fan. I've always just thought, like, there's a ball player right here. This is a guy who still hits for high average in an era where no one does. This is a guy who can take walks and get on base and move a runner over and drive in runs. And let's not discount his power either, by the way. He hit 31 home runs last season. So, like, there's some thump there. But the fact that he's going to be a 2020 guy this year, that is something I would have never seen from Josh Naylor. And to me, I think that speaks to his intelligence as a baseball player. He's not the fastest guy out there, but I think he's a really smart base runner who takes advantage of opportunity. And that, to me, is like a winning player defined right there. A guy who uses his physical characteristics to get the absolute best out of them. And that's what Josh Naylor is doing right now. Now, we have to acknowledge, Mike, that the first base market for free agents has not been particularly friendly over time. And yet we're also living in an era where a first baseman is a $500 million player, and that's Vladimir Guerrero Jr. So for Josh Naylor to, at his age, I believe he's going to be 29 over the winter. He might still be 28, actually. For him, I'm looking at it now. Yeah, he just turned 28.
Yeah, just.
So a guy who's still got 2 years in his 20s reaching free agency. I mean, to me, I get why teams don't give long-term deals to first basemen, but Josh Naylor and what he can provide seem like the kind of guy that you would want to bring back.
Jeffrey, I feel like, I mean, in the next 7 weeks, we'll define this. So it's the beauty of baseball. It will play itself out. But I feel like if Cal shatters, and I mean shatters, these all-time catcher records, and he's at 45 home runs, 3 away from Salvador, if he gets to 55, 56, if he ties Ken Griffey Jr.'s single-season record of 58 home runs as a Seattle Mariner, doing it as a catcher every day as he's done it, I feel like that's the strongest argument as to why he will be the American League MVP. Am I wrong?
No. But I don't personally, when I voted for MVP and I was looking at a guy's body of work, I compared it to the other people in that year, not to what others have done over time. And I think that's the fairest way to do it. This is not about Cal Raleigh and Salvador Perez or Cal Raleigh and Ken Griffey Jr. This is about Cal Raleigh and Aaron Judge. And right now, Aaron Judge has an OPS nearly 200 points higher than Cal Raleigh. Now, this is not to take anything, and I mean anything, away from what Cal Raleigh has done this season. But when you have a gap of that magnitude, it's tough to overcome. And I think that it's funny that Cal Raleigh, the guy who plays at 10 o'clock on the East Coast every night, the guy who is in the most remote baseball location that there is in the big leagues, that he has the narrative advantage over Aaron Judge, a New York Yankee, is wild to me. But he does. I think, I think there can be a bit of it, and I always tried very hard to stay away from this. I think there can be a bit of fatigue when it comes to MVP voting, like voting the same guy every year. To me, that was like a privilege when I could vote for greatness and continuous, consistent greatness. I never saw that as a negative, but I think some voters probably do. And the fact that Cal is just so damn likable does not hurt his chances here. In fact, I think will enhance them.
You mentioned Cole Young earlier and some of what he's done with the bat. It struck us as we were talking yesterday to Divish that Mariners have not had a lot of guys come in and do what he's done. He's only 21. He should be a college senior right now, which is pretty remarkable. There'll be guys drafted next year older than Cole Young. How do you allow a guy to have that success early? How important is it to have space on your team at the beginning of the year to allow for a young player like that to eventually find his way and contribute?
I think this is a really good sign for what the Mariners have to come, that Cole Young has transitioned as well as he has to the big leagues. Now, I think it doesn't hurt that he did not come up as a savior, right? Like, he did not come up as Roman Anthony, who has handled it more with the Boston Red Sox. He did not come up as Jack Caglione, who, had some flashes, but struggled before he wound up on the injured list. Like, it's a very delicate balance that you need to strike, but going to Cole Young like the Mariners did and saying, hey, we don't need you to win us the pennant. We need you to go out there and be yourself. And that's pretty much what he's been to this point, right? He's been very solid defensively. Like, I enjoy watching him play second base and turn that double play. And he's been just really solid offensively. He's not going to be a guy who's going to hit you 30 home runs in a season, but he is someone who's going to work good at bat and get on base. And when I say this is promising for the future, what I mean is transitioning players to the big leagues can be really difficult. And over the next 5 years, guys, we're going to see a lot of that from the Mariners. Like, we're going to see Colt Emerson somewhere on the left side of the infield. And we're going to see Laz Montez in the outfield. Not sure where. Is that when Victor Robles' contract expires, and or is it when Randy Arozarena reaches free agency? I don't know at this point. But best laid plans. We have to keep that in mind. Not all transitions are going to be as smooth and seamless as Cole Young's has been. But I think what the Mariners have in place is a foundation that makes it a very accommodating place and an accommodating clubhouse for young players. And I think that begins with Cal Raleigh. He had some stuff early in his career where he saw the way that he was treated by certain guys, and it didn't sit well with him. And I think he learned from that if I'm going to be a leader on this team, then I need to make this place as comfortable as possible so everyone can find the best version of themselves. And I think that's one thing that we're seeing with Cole Young right now.
You know what I'm hearing in 20 minutes here, Jeffrey? Just big picture, just kind of taking in this conversation. I'd be remiss not to point out that for years you have said to Salk and I and our audience and Mariners fans, the window is open. It's time to go for it. I'd be remiss not to point out a month ago when you said these are the biggest 10 days in Jerry and Justin's career. They have got to make this thing happen. They have got to deliver on their promise. As I just sit here, on this August 12th, right, with the Mariners doing what they're doing right now, have they not answered that call to go for it, have that urgency with this window open to go do something you've not done before?
They did, guys, and the best part is that Eugenio Suarez isn't even hitting right now. Like that to me, he's in a Geno slump right now. You guys are familiar with it. It's where he doesn't walk. It's where he strikes out, seeming like
38%.
Is it bats?
It's 38%.
Yeah, I mean it's one of those things where I think with other teams that weren't playing so well, you'd be asking the question, "What's up with Geno?" Like, did the Mariners screw up? No, they didn't. They didn't, because he's going to have big hits. He's going to go on a heater. He's going to hit some home runs. And when he does, this machine that they've got going right now, it's going to be even better. And so, yeah, I think they, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, guys. There's a lot of baseball left to be played.
Yep.
What I think the Mariners have done, though, is put themselves in as good of a position as we've seen them since the heyday. This right now is the best team that the Mariners have since the, late 90s, early 2000s, 2 decades. And I think I'd love to say they're being rewarded for their aggressiveness. I don't think it works that way, though, because other teams have been aggressive and haven't had quite the fortune that the Mariners have at this point. I think what they did, though, was intelligent in a number of ways. It was intelligent, number one, in the recognition that they need to go, that now is the time that if you have built up and built up and built up, at some point, you got to put a turbocharger on the thing. And that's what they did. But beyond that they didn't dip into their top prospects to do it, and that they were willing to give up control over guys. And they gave up, among Brandon Garcia and Ashton Izzy and Tyler Locklear, like high-end prospects, but not high-end for the Mariners. And that speaks to what they've done developmentally, that few, if any, organizations have drafted and developed as well as the Mariners have over the last 5 years. And this is the fruits of their labor.
We've gone this whole time. We've barely talked about their pitching, their starting pitching, which is supposed to be the strength of this team. We haven't even mentioned the name Julio Rodriguez, who, by the way, has 11 home runs in the last month and has been awesome and a huge part of this, and really seems to be benefiting from having Gino back and just sort of the vibe and all of it. We haven't mentioned kind of the cool Brock, you and I were talking about it yesterday, almost like the 4 different points of the compass with the leadership here, with Naylor and his edge, Julio with his athleticism and fun factor, Gino with the good vibes only, and then Cal with that sort of hard work and determination. It really is a very interesting team. We're having a lot of fun watching them right now, and curious to see what they do now as they go on a tough road trip to Baltimore, Queens, and Philly. It's going to be a tough 9 days. Jeff, thank you. Good to talk to you, and I appreciate you not using any potty words over the last 25 minutes. Very impressive.